Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. We're back for episode 2 of Mommy Moments, and I had I've been dealing with a couple of things, and so this kind of came to mind as my next subject, and so that will be about advocacy for your kids. And I'm going to read. I want to try to leave something, but this has just spoken to me specifically. It says, believe in yourself as a parent. No one knows your child better than you. You have been there since their first breath. There is no better advocate for their needs. And so this has really kind of spoken to me lately because I have had some problems with Jackson, my son, in daycare. And I also have a friend who we've discussed some issues that she was having with childcare, daycare, however you want to say it. But the reason I want to bring it up is because one of the things that I have had to learn that has been a struggle for me is learning to be an effective advocate for my child. So for me, advocacy is understanding that there's a problem, knowing my child's needs, and then finding the solution to the problem. I think my first time at having to be an advocate for my son was I was noticing when he was going in for his monthly checkups, his speech was off. He wasn't really speaking. And I know you shouldn't compare kids to each other. And that's something I've learned, and we'll talk about that another time, that they develop at their own time. But he just wasn't reaching milestones. And I went to an appointment and I noticed, when I was talking to the doctor and they would ask questions, I was like, well, I don't think that Jackson is doing that. And they would say, okay, well, keep an eye on it. We'll see the next visit. And I would come to the next visit. They'll ask the milestones, and he still wasn't quite reaching them. Like I could say yes, but it would be kind of a stretch. And I kind of was telling my concerns to Tyler, and I would tell my concerns to others, and it was like, well, Tyler kind of listened to me, but most people were like, oh, he'll grow out of it. He's young. And it just really, really concerned me. And the doctor, well, always just tell me to follow up. However, because it just wasn't sitting right with me, I kind of pushed the doctor a little bit and was like, okay, these are the milestones that he's supposed to be reaching and he's not reaching them. And so what it led to was me receiving some referrals for speech therapy. And even after, so he had an assessment, he had to have an assessment evaluation first. And after that was completed, it was suggested that he start speech therapy. And even initially with that, I did not. Most people would say, he doesn't really need it. He's fine. This is just, something that is something he'll grow out of. He'll be fine. And but I knew something was wrong with him. I've never been a parent before, but I knew he wasn't reaching the milestones, and I felt like he should be. I mean, Jackson's very smart, and I feel like he should have been saying more, and I couldn't. And what he was saying, we really couldn't understand. And I know you can't truly understand what kids are saying, but it was truly a struggle. Like it was pretty much gibberish to the point like you could point out certain words, but most of it was gibberish. And so I would say that's my first experience with having to advocate for my child. And I'm per- let me see. I'm trying to say how I want to say it. So I want to advocate for all my children, but I feel like a lot of times boys, especially black boys, do not always get the advocacy that they deserve. And so the reason I wanted to bring it up, because for me, and I'm just sharing my experience, I'm not one that likes confrontation. I'm not one that likes attention brought to them. So I'm like more behind the scenes. I don't really like to cause a ruckus, and if I say something, it's usually out of emotion. If I do say something, and it's not in a healthy manner, I would say. So, I wanted to talk about that because this is something that I'm having to learn how to advocate for my children, but also how to advocate for them in an effective manner that it gets communicated, not doing it out of emotion, understanding that I don't have to take things personal, but that it is my responsibility to advocate for my children. So I've had the experience of advocating against, not against, but advocating for Jackson when it comes to medical. And that's difficult because, these are the people that they don't know everything, but when you're saying that there's a problem and they're just like, oh, wait till the next milestone, it's like you're like, I'm really not qualified. I really don't know. All I'm going by is a gut feeling and how I feel about my child. So that was a bit different for me. And now I'm learning to advocate for my kids when it comes to daycare. And so specifically what we're dealing with now, because it's all in transparency, is that so for the past, I guess, week, out of nowhere, we get daily reports, and Jackson has been getting reports that he's been hitting. And so I know my child, but I never want to be that parent that be like, no, that's not my child. I know kids are capable of things. And so Tyler would come, and he's a dad, so they don't, and he's a guy. We like details. Guys are like, oh, he hit, okay, why you do this, discipline. But I needed to know what the root of the matter was, and I just couldn't. And the teacher was just fine with just like saying he's hitting, that's it, not giving us any details. So I was like, I have to address it. Like, I got to find out what's going on so I can address it at home so that we won't continue to have the problem at school. But I can't address hitting when I don't know, like, what's going on, what's the circumstance behind it. So I had to make an effort to actually go in, speak with the teacher, understand, well, you're saying hit. I know he's hitting, but what do you mean by, like, is he like attacking people? Is something happening and he's hitting? Like, I don't have any reference point to it. So this is my first time having to do this with school. And so, of course, when I go to talk to her, there's like a list of things that she's saying is wrong. And I'm like, you're not communicating with me for me to know what I need to address. So I'm having to be my son's advocate because I know that if no one communicates with these things to me and it just goes unchecked, then next thing we know, we're in school and he has all these issues that were never addressed because no one communicated with me and I didn't advocate for my child. And also, I want to say that sometimes we have to advocate for our children, not just in school, but with family as well. I have quickly come to realize that just because they're family doesn't mean they're going to love your children. It's a sad thing to say, but and they might do love your children, but they don't. Let me say, they don't always have the best intentions. Or they don't come off as the best intentions. And you might have to advocate for your children when it comes to family. And so I'm just trying to navigate all this at the same time. And it is a lot. It's been a very, very, very trying week because I know that my son is good hearted. I know that he's kind, but I know he's not perfect. And I don't want to blame it on just being a boy. I do know that boys are different from girls. I know they're a little rougher. I know they usually have more energy, but I don't want to blame it on that. I want everyone to be able to see what I see inside my son, what I see every day. And in this advocating, I'm learning that I can't take it personal, because what I'm feeling is that people will take what he's doing as that I'm doing something wrong. And so when I'm learning to advocate efficiently, as I was saying, that means not taking it personally, because I'm not teaching him to hit. I'm not one of the things. He bit someone, and she said it only happened once, but I haven't taught him to bite anyone. But he's either expressing something or something's going on, and I have to address it. I have to find out what's going on. That is my responsibility. But I'm trying to learn to not take it personally, like I'm failing as a mom. And that's basically what I've been doing. But that's why I say we must learn as parents that advocacy is very, very important. You know your child, and you have to protect your children, and you have to defend them until they can speak up for themselves and defend themselves. And I know my son isn't perfect, but I'm learning how to help him. The problems that he's having, learn how to address them with people of different backgrounds, whether it's medical or, you know, that was with primary care, with teachers, or even with family. Family one is a little bit sensitive because those are relationships that you want to nurture for the most part. But I'm learning that in this space that I'm in, that I'm just gonna have to advocate with family too. And I was talking to Tyler about this because it's very, 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 it's a very, very touchy subject. I feel like when you have to advocate against family, but it's just something that you have to do sometimes. But the reason that I wanted to just bring this up is because I don't know if anyone else is learning how to. It's one thing to advocate for yourself, but trying to advocate for your child is definitely becoming a unique learning experience. Some days I want to cry because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm hoping that I'm doing the best. And then sometimes I'm just like, oh, you're doing a good job. You spoke up. You saw something that nobody else saw, or that people didn't want to see. So it's an adventure. I'm learning every day. Because today was very, very bad for me, I had to reach out to, well, I spoke with two people, and it goes back to what I was saying on the first video. I talked with someone who's been a mom and has adult children. We talked this morning, and she gave me some great advice. And then I talked with my cousin, or my sis, my sis, Jessica. Talked with her this afternoon, and she gave me some tidbits as well that were very, 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 very helpful. And I just wanted to share with other parents as we're learning to advocate for our children effectively. Advocating to me is not going up to the school and cussing everybody out. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's defending your child, I guess, depending on what's going on. But as my auntie Jackie say, you catch more flies being with honey than vinegar. So I want to, make sure that I'm making a difference, that I'm understood, and that it's not something that's going to reflect bad on my child. Just trying to handle my business in the right manner. So just for you parents, make sure you advocate for your children, knowing that you won't always get it right, but it's our responsibility as parents to always understand what's going on with our children and fight for them And when they're wrong, hold them accountable. I'm not saying that Jackson isn't doing anything wrong. I have some things that I'm going to be working with him on, Tyler and I, that we're going to be putting in place based off advice and research that I've read, that I think will be very beneficial to helping him. So we're not saying that he's not doing. We're not going to hold him. We're not saying that he's not accountable for his actions. But what we are saying is, I'm advocating to make sure that he gets better. That it's not just, oh, he's doing this and nothing's ever addressed, or just wait for that. He'll grow out of that. But if I know in my heart that something's wrong, I'm going to keep pushing forward. Or if you're treating my child wrong or treating my child different, I'm going to advocate and speak up for them. And that doesn't mean when you're advocating, that doesn't mean that it will always change the way you want to, when you want to, and things like that. But you don't give up. You keep doing till you get the result that you have, and you protect your children. So if it's not getting better, if it's hurting them, you protect them from it. And that's part of advocacy. It's just removing, Sometimes you don't just keep pushing against a brick wall. You just remove them from the situation, find a better situation. So I said a lot, but it was something important to me as I'm learning how to become an advocate for my children. Jackson just happens to be my experimental child because he's the oldest, and wherever he can get into, he will get into. So, and I don't want him to be another statistic. I just don't. And so, this is my journey. If you have any pointers for me to help me advocate for my child, I would greatly appreciate it. And I just want to say, for parents that may be struggling with things that you aren't teaching your children, or you're trying to correct in your children, I just want you to know it's okay. Because I literally was like crying in the car on the way home because I was like, what am I doing wrong? Just don't take it personal. Kids gonna be kids. Kids are going to be kids, and they're not perfect, but we're put on this earth to hold them accountable, to help mold them into be responsible adults. And so it takes work. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you will have days that you cry. You will have days that you feel like you're just not getting it right. But we're going to be okay. We got this. And, that's when you reach out to others to help you. I promise you that you're not going through anything alone. If you need to talk to me, I definitely don't have it by any means. But as I go through things, if you're going through something similar, please reach out to me. And it may not be that you need me. I may need you. But that's what we're here for. So I'm hoping that you learned something. I'm hoping that you've enjoyed this time. And I'm hoping that I'm not alone in this, in becoming an advocate for my son, as I know I will have to be an advocate for Kennedy and Carter. But Jackson has just been that child that gets into everything right now. So everything that could I wouldn't say go wrong, but everything that has made me forced me to come out of my comfort zone as a parent has definitely been with Jackson. So I appreciate it. It makes me love him more. And I think it helps me to grow as a mom. So I just think I heard a thud. And I'm hoping that, well, it wasn't Carter, because now he's starting to scoot. But he would be crying. So I'm sure that's Jackson, because I'm sure it's not Kenny unless somebody done fell out the bed. But with that, this has been Mommy Moments. I hope that it was good. I hope that I'm still meeting Tyler's standards. I've enjoyed this time sitting on the couch for my own therapy session, but I just need to get it off of my chest. So that will be this episode for this week, and I think I already have an episode for next week. So until next time, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and advocate for your babies, especially your boys.